Hello, good evening. We're almost evening. I'm not going to talk for too long. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of dialogue after that. But I'm Jason Stocks. I work for a company called LimeJump, and we're now part of the Shell family, along with other subsidiaries as of last week, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But some exciting news. I effectively head up demand and flexible generation. What does that mean? We're working both front and behind the meter. So you'll see some customers up on the screen in just a few minutes where we've been working behind the meter on various DSR programs, as already been mentioned, or actually in front of the meter, looking at power generation coming on to the grid. I guess it's been touched upon already. If you weren't certain, or if you have some uncertainty, we are in both an exciting time. Energy is a buzzword, isn't it, at the moment? I don't know about your friends and my friends. It's quite cool to be talking about energy and to be working in the energy space. Might not have been the case, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. But why is that? Well, there are massive changes happening on a global basis and here in the UK. And this description, this illustration shows that. We're moving to a much more renewable state. We've already talked about carbon emission targets, the carbon effect on the atmosphere. And we're trying to move towards a future vision of a total renewable network. And that's where we'll end today. We've got some of these headlines. Theresa May has been, I think, mentioned enough in various presentations, but there's all sorts of stuff happening on a UK basis and a global basis. And if you are an import customer in the last year, you might have heard and read or seen on your actual bill, we have seen some quite significant increases in the prices that we're paying for our energy use. So lots of change, lots of challenges. If you are investing in a battery, we've got something called the Targeted Charging Review. We've got Ofgem and BEIS and National Grid, has already been alluded to. Lots of change, there's lots of uncertainty for investors. So if you weren't confused by those first few slides, I could probably even confuse you a little bit more. So there's lots of change happening in the market, which is both a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And certainly at LimeJump, that's what we see. And what we're talking about, or what we spend a lot of our time talking about, are these three things. It's decarbonisation, it's digitization, and decentralization. That is pretty much what we talk about on a week-by-week basis, and that is somewhat of our strategic focus. If we can decentralize, we've already seen some great project examples from Upside. If we can decentralize, if we can actually create local markets where we are lending and borrowing energy from each other, we are decentralizing the grid that we currently have in the UK. If we're digitizing, if we're able to process data and have data science and real-time algorithmic development, we can anticipate what is going to happen on the system and involve different energy sources to deal with that. And then the whole decarbonization process. How are we actually going to use renewables on the network and at the same time bring storage and get rid of all the fossil fuel plant that we've enjoyed for decades? So it's both a challenge, but it's both an opportunity. So LimeJump, how are we doing? Well, we're doing pretty well, actually. These are some of the customers that we are working with across the UK. You recognize some of them. They are household names like Aldi or Birdseye. There's some other more private clients that have lots of infrastructure and generation projects. And then some household names like Tata Steel or Northumbrian Water, who are supplying some water needs here in the Midlands or in London or whatever it might be. Lots of different clients doing lots of different stuff, be it behind the meter or in front of the meter. And these are just some interesting stats, I think, to share. We've been around for sort of about 4 years, and during that time, it's been an extraordinary journey. Actually, we have currently the largest aggregated portfolio of live batteries in continental Europe. So that is ranging from a 10 kilowatt hour battery right through to a 30 megawatt peaking site. We have almost 780 megawatts of power purchase capacity. We have some of the largest solar PPAs in the UK currently. So we have lots of different customers. And this whole digitization piece, last year we are collecting over 800 billion data points. That is an astronomical amount of data. When AWS, Amazon Web Services, relaunched their services in the UK just over 5 years ago, we were already collaborating with AWS to source the data that we were going to be aggregating in our virtual power plant as this system grows. It's an astronomical amount of data. My sort of task today was really to, I guess, spend a few moments on batteries. I've mentioned the portfolio that we currently have, and it's been mentioned already. There's some genuine innovation projects that are happening in the UK right now. A lot of the projects that are live have been in the commercial industrial space, be it behind the meter as UPS backup, or looking at peak shaving or other balancing services, or actually moving into what Caroline was talking about, merchant services, balancing mechanism, where you're trading batteries in the wholesale market. As of today, we are doing all of that. So LimeJump offer the depth and breadth and suite of products that National Grid and DSO offer. And that's a very good position to be in. But also, we haven't stopped there. I've mentioned we're working with Sonin, who are also part of the Shell family, where we're running across 10 sites on 10 kilowatt hour batteries, looking to form an innovation project. So how does that actually take us into the domestic space as this market grows? And also, we've got some of the first co-located projects in the UK. So we're working with solar, charging up the battery at certain times, and then discharging the battery when the grid need it most. And we're seeing more and more co-located projects, such as landfill gas filling up a battery, such as wind projects. We're still not there yet on some of these new renewable technologies, but it's certainly starting to happen on this C&I space, and now slowly moving into the domestic and SME sector. That's actually one of our largest sites. That's our 29 megawatt site in the Midlands in the UK. This has been touched upon already. This is quite a big milestone for the UK in general, not just for LimeJump. Regulation is a piece which has already been touched upon. Last summer, we worked very hard with National Grid at the back end of 2017 and through 2018. We got a degradation through Ofgem, and we were actually allowed into the balancing mechanism as the first aggregated BMU. If that really doesn't mean much to you, it's a big news. It's big news for the industry. Why? Primarily because prior to that date, it was really the big transmission connected generators, the big household names, the big players in energy that really had somewhat of a monopoly in that market. It is a very lucrative market to be involved with. It is the sort of post-gate, the real-time management of grid balancing in the UK. And what that has allowed the whole grid to do is it allowed others to follow. So it's not just good for LimeJump, it's actually we've created a way for others to follow into. So we're seeing greater transparency, we're seeing greater share of those revenues right down to small generators across the grid. So it's really, really good news. This is really central to what LimeJump do. It's not a fantastic slide, if I'm honest, but at the very center of what we do, somewhat like Upside, we are a data company. We just so happen to be in the energy space. We process lots of data, manage thousands of assets right across the UK, and we effectively aggregate those together to perform an energy marketplace. Why does that matter to you? Well, ultimately it matters because the bills that you're paying for your home or for your businesses, as we've seen already, they are increasing. The challenge of that for regulation, the challenge for that as customers, we have to make our part in this to reduce that challenge and also create a parity in the market that is equal for everyone. this is partly how we're doing. It'd be great to have some questions. I'm conscious that we're just here bombarding you with lots of information, but hopefully that makes some sense. We are aggregating multiple assets right across the UK, manage them in real time, and creating a marketplace that has access for as many customers as we can take. So the sort of topic of this session really is, I just want to finish on this, is what does the future look like? Well, this is something that we are currently discussing. It is not a product as of today, but we are already looking at next iterations for LimeJump. What does the future genuinely look like? Are we ever actually going to get to a total renewable state in the UK and beyond? So we're talking about virtual grid. What does this mean? Well, it means a number of things. It means that we can disintermediation. Do we actually need a transmission network in the future? Do we actually need a DSO network? These are big questions. They're regulatory questions, they're philosophical questions, they're pricing questions. It is a philosophical discussion that we are having at LimeJump at the moment. How do we actually see this in the future? Do we need these TSOs, DSOs, etc.? Yes, we do. Of course we do. But actually, what role do they have to play in the future? Actually, if we genuinely have the ability to have machines and algorithmic development that we are seeing in the energy marketplace, what does genuine automation and real-time management look like? That if we have a solar asset that is meant to pump out X amount of energy at this time, and we can see actually in the next few minutes that that's going to not happen, what else can we bring in real time to mitigate that? Genuine automation. And the ultimate goal for us at LimeJump and the vision that we have for the future is this 100 renewable state. Are we there today? No, absolutely not. We have gas peaking assets. We have batteries that are importing from the grid. We have work in all sorts of industries. We've got a long way to go. But ultimately, as we see the future, we see it as it has to be a 100% renewable state. If we're going to exist as a company, let alone as a nation and so forth, we have to be moving far quicker than we are at the moment, and LimeJump are part of that journey. Thank you.